This is the Authentic Dating series brought to you by Ahmad and David,
where we explore what it takes to have a dating life you're excited about.
Hey guys, I'm David.
I'm Ahmad.
And this is the Authentic Dating series.
So in this episode, we're going to take you through one of the key things that we've been teaching men recently, which is about why your conversation is boring and not creating connection. But I think before we get into that, there's a couple of announcements to make. I think number one is we've got another communications course in general, and that's coming up on the 5th of August at 8:30 till 10 p.m. We're really excited to be running this course again. We had a lot of great feedback, really good energy. I know, Dave, you loved delivering that. That was a lot of good fun, and the exercises and stuff went down really well. So, yeah, really excited to bring that back. And is there anything you want to say? I think
No, that's it. I think it's it's a free ticket. Obviously, it's a free event, so just sign up. It's 8:30 p.m. BST, which is British Standard Time. So if you're in another country, you can still tune in, no problem. If you might have missed the last one, and you get another bite of the cherry, as they say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people love this so much that we thought, you know what, let's do this again. So, yeah, really excited to bring that back. And other than that, thanks again to all our listeners for your continued support and comments and questions. We love those, so keep sending those in. And, we'll always respond. We never bite. We always love to field your questions and help you guys out with any dating issues. And I think the last thing I just want to say for this intro is make sure you sign up to our newsletter. That's been coming out on a monthly basis with lots of great content and recapping anything you might have missed throughout the month, the top podcasts and stuff that have been out. So we keep on producing these things weekly, and we love it. So yeah, keep in touch.
Yeah, and I guess into the episode, I don't know if we've mentioned it, what the title is now, but it's like why your conversation is boring and not creating connection. And it's one of the things that's happening in your dating life that you don't realize that's fucking up your dating life, because, if you are regularly going out on dates or, I'd say the first point, if you're kind of approaching women, you're talking to women in bars and events and stuff like that. And when you ask them for their phone number, they're like, oh yeah, have my dog's Facebook or, let's be, Instagram friends. And you feel like you're a bit brushed off. And it's because there's a lack of connection. Or if you're going on dates and women are saying to you, you're a really nice guy, I really enjoyed the date, but I just didn't really feel a spark there. This is one of the big reasons why that's happening to you.
Yeah, and this is so what we're going to go through today is really key to really help you to start to reverse that damage caused by boring conversations. And this is really important because what David and I have found throughout our years of coaching is men in general, we always create conversations in a way that we normally speak to other men, and we don't factor in that women in general are far more emotional in their conversation. When I say emotional, I mean they're emotionally expressive. I'm not saying they're erratic in their conversation. I mean they're emotionally expressive in their conversation, and they express their emotions in their conversation. Whereas men, we tend to like to be very factual and a matter of fact. And I think the first point, which is a huge point, is then what that leads us to is talking too logically. And this is a big point. It's so often this is one of the biggest issues that men face, is that we focus on the facts of the situation, and we're always just saying, this happened, that happened, and we're actually expressing like any emotion in that, and so what we're really going to go through in this podcast today is how to break away from this like constant logical sort of conversation. And really, guys, this is a attraction killer. This is a connection and an attraction killer, because women want to hear, like, what are you really thinking and feeling, not just like the dates and the times and the locations, but like what's going on under the surface.
Yeah. And I guess when we say even under the surface, there's a diagram I remember went to his coaching course, and they talked about how the tip of the iceberg is just the things you do.
Mm.
Everything underneath that is your beliefs, your feelings, your emotions, your story, your history. And think of conversation in that way. I think that's an incredible analogy. It's like the
Mm.
facts and the facts of the situation, like what actually happened, what didn't happen, is just the little bit on the top. But actually, everything else, the detail that's kind of beneath that, is what's really interesting. Like, I guess a good example would be, describing your route to work. You could say, "Oh yeah, I got on the tube, sat on the tube for 45 minutes, then I got off at Bank, and then I took a right down Leopold Street, and then I took a left into my office building number 57, and then I was at my desk." Like, that story doesn't really, for me,
Yeah,
telling that story, I felt bored.
yeah. That was like Google Maps talking.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas if you're like, oh, so like I was running for the tube, I was running late, and I was worried I was going to get to work, like I was going to miss the tube. And then as I was getting to the tube, this train was running, and I'm sweating, and then I run on, and I just make it through the doors,
Yeah.
the doors, and like I bump into someone, and this burly guy is kind of annoyed, and I'm like, I'm really sorry. And then we get talking about the book that he's reading. He's reading this book. It's called, I don't know, Letting Go. And I've read it before and I really enjoyed it. Like, I got a lot out of the book. To see how the difference between those two stories was, it's like this one is filled with action and like upset and emotion, whereas the previous one is literally just giving you the Google Maps.
Mm. Yeah, and that's a really nice example because the next point, is about how often, we, like I said, we focus on the logicals and the doings, and not the feelings and ideas. And as you heard just David express there was a lot more with the feelings of,
Mm.
of what was going on, as opposed to just like the actions, as we now can term the Google Maps version of a story. It's just
The
that,
Google Maps version.
yeah, we can now term it as the Google Maps version. And yeah, and I find like it's actually this is a cool thing that we do in the community, create attraction through conversation course that we do, the free one that we mentioned earlier, is teaching men, that the differences between that logical conversation and what it is when you start to inject that
Mm.
thoughts and the feelings and the ideas into the conversation.
Yeah, and it's just like you can talk about the doings of life, but actually, life is about what we feel. And as much as, I know this is a point that I would really stress, is like, as much as we're told that, you may say as a man, like, oh, I'm very logical. You're not. You're not very logical at all. You're very emotional. You don't realize you are, and then your brain rationalizes your emotional decisions, and then you then say, "Oh, see, I'm logical." Like, there's a few books I've read. There's Emotional Intelligence, which is by Dan Goldman, and he explains this point a few times. It's like,
Mm.
that's how we think, because our emotions actually make decisions long before our brains can kick in, our frontal lobe, and like work out and think of things logically. Our emotions have already decided what the response is.
Mm.
And the worst thing is, in those emotions, not the worst thing in the emotion, is that a lot of those emotional responses are actually built from years and years ago when you were a child. That's a completely different podcast episode.
But we have
But
touched upon this idea. But go on.
yeah, but it's important to acknowledge, you
Mm.
feel things, and like that's what connects us as people. Like, everyone's feeling what's happening in this moment, what happened to them yesterday, what they're worried about for later, what they're looking forward to. And these are the things, like, those are the details that really spark attraction.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I can resonate with that as a huge part of my learnings, as I went from being a shy guy to where I am today. Was recognizing the importance of expressing my actual feelings and how I actually think and feel openly, and that's where the whole word authentic, that's what that points to. Like, being authentic points to that getting in touch with the truth of a situation, and that being, how does it actually feel, like how do I feel right now, and being able to openly express that. And that doesn't just mean I think one of the errors that a lot of men make with that is then they naturally assume that it still has to just be positive, uh,
Mm,
which is not the case. It's like, so going back to what David just said there, and I think this is a huge point, in anyone's journey, is to acknowledge the humanness in communication. Like as men, yeah, we often do think, oh, men are logical, and the whole men are from women are from Venus, men are from Mars concept, right? And it's like men being logical and rational, and women being emotional and more on that side of things. But in actual fact, all human beings, we all have a range of emotions, and throughout the day, whether it's an issue with work, or an issue with a family member, or or whomsoever, we will experience a range of emotions. It can go from sadness to happiness. It can be excitement. It can be grief, and so often we seem to narrow our experiences to just I'm okay. And so
Mm.
everything's funneled through. How can I appear to be okay? And so this is a huge factor, and we've kind of veered off from the conversational bit piece here, but it's important for conversation, because so often we men, number one, we stick to logical, and two, we stick to positive. And really,
Yeah.
when you're speaking about stuff, like, again, if you rewind back to what David expressed in that short made up story about running for the tube, there was the doubts and the concerns and the worries for the huge guy that you knocked into, you know,
Mm.
rather than just everything being great and fantastic. There's a myriad.
Mm.
That is life, right? That's constant. Like, I'm not constantly walking around like in a happy, gleeful mood. Often there's something that's on my mind that I'm trying to figure out, a challenge to overcome, or a problem that I'm facing. So these are all legit things to say.
Yeah, yeah. I must say, I came from the camp, especially I'd say kind of maybe 10 or so years ago, or even up to, even sometimes struggling with now, is like feeling like I have to be positive all the time. Like I have to, especially if you've done a bit of self development work, and a lot of it is about, positive mental attitude and so forth. And actually, that doesn't help you in the long run. So
Yeah.
the next topic is about being brave with the topics that you talk about when it comes to being on dates, or when you're talking to women, because I speak to guys about this a lot, and for our coaching and the workshops we do, it's like men are finding themselves, and it's understandably so to a certain degree, is what does she want to talk about? Like, let me
Mhm.
talk about the things that a woman wants to talk about. And I think there's some good in that, like just to be considerate, right? And like be curious about somebody. But there, it's different if you're, talking about subjects that are not very interesting to you, or not very important to you as well. Like constantly, just for the need to please the woman in front of, because you somehow have this misguided belief that, oh, if I talk about stuff that she likes, she's going to like me.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, the huge problem with that, and something that just sparked up in my mind, was something we learned years ago, is the difference between just making friends, like just being friendly and making friends, and actually creating a sexual tension. And
Mm,
when you're just making friends, yeah, you meet someone in a class, on a course, or whatever, and oh, you're both into fishing or whatever, right? And so you're like, yeah, great, you're into fishing, I'm into fishing, fantastic, let's hang out and fish. And so it's like fantastic, and then you some sort of like yes ladder. You try to find more and more things that you're compatible with, but that's just that's just like friendly things that you can get along with people and group with people that have similar things that they're into. But then there, on the flip side, like in any interaction, there's this edge where
mm,
where I would say, they used to call this breaking rapport, right? It's like, and
mm,
very strategic in that manner. But when you phrase it like that, but when you're actually leading your life from a position of like, what you want, and you're expressing that openly and freely, what that actually communicates, you're not really breaking rapport intentionally. You're actually just saying, look, this is how I see things. This is
mm,
where I draw the line. Like, this is my
mm.
leadership. It's
Yeah,
actually leadership. It's like, this is my. Now, I don't have to get into an argument about it, but it's more just like, no, that's not how I see it. Like, I see it like this way. Like, and
yeah.
then you're creating a disparity of void and a tension. And it's fun, because it's not, you're not just going. It's a bit like any movie, right? No movie just goes positive, 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 positive all the way through.
Mm,
Yeah, they start the movie positive, and at the end they have a breakthrough, and it's fantastic. Like, a movie goes positive, negative, positive, negative, and then you're taken on this whole joyful ride. And
Mm.
in any date or an encounter or conversation, like you want to be creating that joyful experience and a real experience, because that is life.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I've had a single day in life where it's just been completely flat. Like
Yeah.
every day has had some up, some down, like a pipe will break or something. And but then you achieve something that you didn't think you were going to achieve, and then someone texts you some upsetting news or whatever, and so goes life. And the thing is, what we're really speaking into here is again, is about being authentic. It's
Mm.
real, because that is a human wave. Humans, we naturally go and down, up and down. And so when we're talking about being brave, it's like, well, what's actually on your mind? Like, don't
Mm.
just be saying, "Oh, yeah, I believe that too," or let's say we're talking about, let's say we're talking about politics now, and Kanye West in
Mm.
in current affairs, 2020, for posterity, if you listen to this in the future. 2020 current days, Kanye West is going for presidency, and everyone's going to have a view on that, right? so
Mm.
so like if someone you're speaking to, if a girl you're speaking to is like, yeah, she's against it, but you actually think Kanye West is amazing, and if his music's great, then maybe he'll make a good president. You should say that. you should put that out there. so
Mm.
so this is the thing. It's about actually having what I would call an edge. There's an edge to you,
Mm.
a line. There's a definitive side to you. You're not malleable on everything, and you're just completely okay in every situation. You're actually like,
Mm.
yeah, no, this is a line. I actually like this, or I dislike this, or I disagree, or that sort of vibe.
Mm. It's like standing for something.
Yeah, yeah, for yourself,
Yeah.
standing for yourself.
Standing for yourself.
Yeah.
So the next point is this is a funny one, because I see this, especially I see this on Instagram, where girls are posting stories of like the interactions they're having on my dating apps, or when my girlfriend showed me, what they're dealing with guys, and it's answering questions really basically,
Mm,
right? And I'd also probably add into this, not even really reading the question sometimes. It's like, say for instance, I think that the simplest question that you see far too much in dating apps and stuff is, how are you?
mm.
I feel like Tinder should just ban people from saying that within the first three messages, and it would probably make the world a better place.
Yeah,
If you did that, like,
yeah.
it's like the way that if for the older time people who used it, Plenty of Fish used to have a setting in there where if you sent someone a message, it would have to be a certain length. Like I
Mm,
would say, the message you send me has to be a minimum of I don't know, 40 characters.
mm, mm,
And what that meant is that people who were just going to go, hey, how are you? They couldn't send you a message. They'd have to think a bit more if they wanted to message you then. But it's like, even the question, hey, how are you? You can really answer that question. Like
mm,
you can really go, what I hear is you're asking me how I am, how am I feeling, how my day's gone, and potentially even like what I've been up to. Like I could go, oh, you know what, how am I? Oh, I'm pretty, I'm feeling a bit tired today. Like I had a yoga session at home, and I was like, it's a great session. It's a particular woman that I follow on Instagram, not Instagram, sorry, on YouTube, and I do her videos like a couple times a week, and I really love them because they're really easy to do and they flow really nicely. But it's quite a workout, and after that, I kind of went straight back to my desk. There we go. You've just said so many things about you. Instead of saying, when someone says, "Hey, how are you?" Go, "Yeah, I'm good. You?"
yeah.
Like it's just like, guys, it's not doing you any favors at all. And I see this all the time with like women that I know. You'll show me a picture and you'll be like, oh man, the guy's like, hey, how are you? First message, she's like, yeah, I'm really good. I've had like a really good day. This, da, 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 da. And then she goes, how about you? How's your day been? And the guy's like, yeah, I'm good. My day was fine. And it's like,
Mm, mm,
you know, it's just a lack of effort, really.
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, yeah. Oh, there's a dog yapping there to
Mm,
yeah, in the background.
it's
Um,
agreeing.
As agreeing, yeah, in agreement, answering, yeah. So yeah, I think the this really relates back to what we were saying at the start as well. Like even if someone, because I know women ask this a lot on dating apps too. Like they also say, "Hey, how are you?" Right, and women are just as
Yeah,
guilty of using this.
they
Hey, how
are.
are you? And like Dave said, like, but still, we can use this thing of like answering questions beyond just the basic answer, but really tapping into
Mm,
emotion again. Like, how are you actually feeling? Because you will literally blow women's minds by injecting emotion into the conversation. It's a very rare trait for a man to do that and to really express
Mm.
that. And I think the thing to add to what you just said there, David, is you're actually allowing and giving a woman more to answer to. You're given
Mm.
much bigger opportunity, and I think that's the key here, right? It's like if you answer really basic, like "Hey, yeah, I'm good," which is never really the case. Like no one's ever good. Good is not a feeling.
Yeah.
Then yeah, like what are they going to say? Like yeah, cool, fantastic, good chat. Like let's do this again sometime. Let's
You're basically killing the conversation.
yeah, choking it. Yeah, just cutting it off. So the other thing as well that's an absolute conversation killer is just asking fucking questions again and again and again. It's we
Mm.
call it the interview mode, and I know like the thing to for guys to pay attention to here is to catch yourself, because this is like almost a default mode of communication for men when it comes to talking to women. They just want, for some reason, we just go, oh, we're just going to ask question after question. Where are you from? Would you like to eat? Do you like ice cream? Have you been to Greece? So it's like just like question after question. And the thing that if you've never experienced this happen to you, like if you've never had, like, and I've had it happen to me actually, like a few times,
Mm.
and it's draining when someone's just asking you question after question after question, and you just feel like you're there like fielding all these questions. You got to keep coming up with answers, right? That's the experience that comes up for women, is that they just got to keep fielding answers, and it's a very tiring experience. And so yeah, I think what we put here is like, this leaves a conversation very jolty, and what jolty is like that kind of sense of like it's not really going anywhere, like a car,
Mm.
that's not starting, it's not flowing, it's just stop
Mm.
start, stop start, stop start, because you're not then picking up from like conversational threads of what's being said, and weaving it and intertwining your own point of view. You just keep firing another question back, and it's just it's
Mm.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really horrible way to learn about someone. Like you may think you're being curious, but in fact, you're just asking a string of questions. And like a way to kind of get around this is ask questions that cause people to kind of, speak a story,
Mm,
and then as they're finishing up that story, then you can kind of inquire or speak your own story about something related to any part of what they said. You
mm,
know, like for instance, like if someone's like, oh, where are you going on holiday this year? You ask them where you going on holiday this year. They say, oh, I'm going to Spain, but I'm also considering going to, I don't know, Montenegro. And you say, oh, you know what? I got a good friend of mine actually. He went to Montenegro, loves the place, and like he's very well traveled. Like he's been all over the world. He spent like 19 months traveling. It's kind of how we met, and blah blah blah. And you see how that one point, takes you onto another story, which then can also take you back to ask them why you're going there or something like that. But it means that the conversation flows. It's literally kind of like I feel like it's more of a boat on the waves than like a tennis match.
yeah, yeah, and something that jumped out to me there as well is that what you have to understand is this is that conversation is an exchange, as opposed to just like a one-way thing. So you're giving as much as you're taking, and if you're asking loads of questions, you're just taking answers. But then you're actually giving back and coloring in as well, coloring in the conversation as well, as David mentioned there, with the tidbits of things that you know about. You're actually giving back, and that actually allows a conversation to really unfold in its own
Mm,
way. There's no exact template here. This is something that you allow to unfold, and those are the best conversations, where you just don't know where
yeah.
you're going to end up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I know some of you might be listening and going, oh, I'm a bit shy. I don't really want to talk about myself. And like shyness doesn't preclude you from talking about yourself. It doesn't mean, maybe you're shy and you don't want to talk in front of, big groups of people or whatever. But it's like, this is something that you can just do. You can just start little baby steps, do little things here and there. And if it's something you're really struggling with, then you contact us, because this is the sort of thing that we help people with. This is what our coaching program is for. So yeah. So the next point is is one I truly think is one of the most important things, if not, it's up there with the logical one as the most important things you need to be doing, that men don't do, is they lack presence. And when I say presence, it's like being in the moment. It's engaging in your senses, the senses that are right there that you have. That might be your taste, your smell, your sight, your hearing, and even your touch, and not engaging in those, but actually instead engaging in thoughts, like of the past or the future, or imaginations or dreams, or whatever you goes through your mind, instead of like feeling into the very moment that you're in, like listening to the conversation, like she's telling you about something. What do you hear? What's the emotion behind that? That sort of thing. Whereas I think it's very easy to be feeling very anxious and being like, oh, what do I need to say next? And that means you're not in that moment. So she's not feeling that you're really there with her, like, or you're on your phone or something like that. And this is something that really, really gets in the way of your dating. And you will never notice it, right? Until you start to do this properly, because you will just then start to find that women pay more attention to you. They listen to you more. You hear what they're saying. You connect with them better. It's like, this is like the absolute magic. And sometimes some people say it's quite an advanced point, but it is, to me, like presence is the most important thing you can bring to a date, to an interaction, to sex, to anything.
Yeah, very true. And I have to say, I guess it is kind of like an advanced point in the sense that it's something you have to cultivate. It's not like a technique. You're not going to read a line in a book or something and then go, right, okay, now I'm going to be present. It's a sense of understanding. Well, what does it mean to be present? And one of the biggest things is if you're constantly thinking in your head, like while someone's talking, and you're thinking of the next line to say, or the next, how you're going to make her laugh, or like how you're going to get her number, then you're no longer present. And why that is because being present literally means you're in the moment, in the now, and you're taking everything in. When you're in your mind, then you're somewhere else. You're thinking probably most likely about the future, about like what's going to happen next, or you're in the past and about like how some other shit fucked up before and how you don't want that shit to happen again. And
Mm,
so that takes you out of the now. And so really cultivating the now. And I think, we could give you exercises and stuff to do that, but really, again, this is something that takes time, and we highly recommend you get in touch with us. We can take you through, these sort of things. So I think the final point is a big one, and for everyone who's been listening, you're going to really have heard this in our voice and what we've been doing, and so what men tend to lack is energy in their expression, and this happens so often where guys we I don't know what it is. I guess we're afraid to express how we really feel, so we don't let that excitement or that passion come out in our voice, and so then we tend to speak in a very flat, monotone voice where everything sounds the same, and I don't really know how I really feel about anything. And the problem with that is, again, like we were saying before about emotional expression, is like human beings are naturally wired to pick up on differences, and when things are monotone, it's a bit like that, like meditation music, where it's like white noise, that
mm,
noise that kind of puts you into a meditative state, as opposed to keeping you alert, like a movie, like an action thing or a thriller. And so when you speak with energy and you accentuate your points, you really draw attention, and you can hear us. We're not putting this on. This is how we talk. Like even when we're tired, like it's not like we're not talking like being like Tony Robbins, right? Like kind of like got an hour of power, like maxing out, but just rather just like, even if you're tired, you can still talk with pauses and reflection and
mm.
emotion, and you evoke emotion by doing that. That's the magic of it.
And when you bring this energy, it's like you actually also pass it on to the women you're talking to. And
Mm,
this is something that women are often saying about men. It's like, oh, the conversation felt a bit flat. You
mm,
know, there was like a lack of energy about him, and what that is that, you're feeling stifled. I think this is the big one here, is you're feeling stifled. You're coming from fear. You're not relaxing into the moment and being present. Because if you were doing those things, we would have more energy, and you'd be forthright with who you are. Like it kind of encompasses a lot of these things, but this energy is something that, I speak to women, I speak to men, and it's something that happens a lot on date, is that there's a lack of ability to give energy.
Mm. Yeah, so there you have it, guys. That was seven like hot tips on how to basically stop your conversations from being boring and actually create real connections in your conversations. So we highly recommend you rewind and listen to this again. If you have any questions, do get in touch. Our email is hello@authenticdatingseries.com. And yeah, anything else you want to say at the end of this one?
No, that's it. You know about the communication, the create the create attraction through conversation course on the 5th of August. Sign up to that, and we'll take you through actually some exercises and how to deal with these, and we go into a lot more detail about these points and many, many, many others.
Yeah. Cool, guys. Peace out.
All right, ciao, ciao.